This one is called How Anime is Actually Made. Surely, a YouTube channel with 5K subs is credible enough to give me the information, right? The like to dislike ratio seems to be fine. I hope the Sakuga community won't roast me alive for watching this video. Hopefully, this is the real deal.
Have you ever been completely blown away by an anime and found yourself wondering how on earth such a masterpiece could even be created?
Human slavery. Don't let the animators see their family. Build an industry out of passion that has workers, that works against their personal interest, will work for little shit pay because they know that if they quit, 50 other dudes are lined up immediately if they start to demand better pay. Yeah, human slavery.
It's no secret that the process of making anime is intricate and time-consuming. On average, it can take a year or more just to produce 12 episodes of an anime series. Crazy, right? Well,
those are probably like free runs, right? Those are probably like actually great animes. The isekai slop that we consume on a daily basis. I wonder how long it actually takes to make those. Like a Newgate, for example, or a Failure Frame. That would be very interesting to see the comparisons between like a high-end anime that has put so much care and effort into it with like a healthy schedule versus just, you know, the usual Kadokawa slop that we feed on.
Prepare your snacks because in just a few short minutes, I'm going to take you on a fascinating journey and reveal the secrets of how anime is made.
The secrets.
Anime production is a complex process that involves many specific parts. I'll try to explain it as simply as possible. Once a series and a studio have been decided, the main production staff, including the director, producer, and episode director, hold a meeting to determine who will be involved in overall production.
This is kind of like what we consider the production committee, right? All the people, the investors. Actually, investors might not be part of the production committee. They're kind of just like there to kind of inject the money in. Then like the producers, the directors, and everyone will kind of decide, all right, what kind of talent are we going to have? What kind of budget do we have? What kind of schedule do we have?
This includes positions like character designer, animation supervisor, keyframe animator, in-between animator, CG director, art director, color selector, sound director,
Holy
voice
shit.
actors, SFX artist, and more. Each
A
position
lot.
may be filled by several people, resulting in a staff of 50 to 100 people.
Okay.
The production stage is divided into 3 stages: the pre-production, production, and post-production. In
Makes
the
sense.
pre-production stage, the director, producer, story writer, and the original author, if it's not an original series, create the script for each specific episode. Once the script is complete, the series director or episode director creates the storyboard. Storyboards are crucial because they are sequential
Drawn
drawings
portions.
detailing the major scenes of the series.
So like in Oshinoko, I'm not sure if this comparison would stand, but you know how like in season 2 in the beginning, and you know, it's different because that was, you know, trying to make an adaptation of a manga into 2.5D theater stuff, but you do see the author get involved with the directors and script writing, and they're trying to figure out, all right, exactly how is the story going to be adapted? So in the pre-production stage, you want to make sure that, okay, each episode will contain these specific segments of a chapter. Like this episode will contain like chapters 55 to 57 or something. And then the storyboarding is more like, now, since that you have that template, you have the idea, the structure, the framework, now draw that shit. Literally just means storyboard, right? Let's see how that plan that's going to get adapted, right? Put that into motion. Give me the drawings. And then I guess we make the anime.
And include information about dialogue, music, sound effects, and camera work.
Okay.
It's the first step in bringing the script to life. After the storyboards is completed, the character designer will create detailed animation character designs to be used as reference by animators during the production stage. The character designer will often work closely with episode director and art designer to establish the overall visual look of the series characters.
Probably one of the most important roles then, huh? The character design, because that's like the aesthetics. That's like the style that you're going to be, you know, showing to the people.
The designer, on the other hand, will develop the overall visual look of the production by creating the detailed designs of location,
Like the
item
environments?
objects, vehicles, and the characters.
What about the character designer? Character design is more specifically, literally, the characters, right? The actual anime characters that we all know. Art design, I guess, is everything beyond that has to do with the backgrounds, the setting, the different assets, I wonder if composition is also handled there in terms of like coloring.
Finally, the color designer
Nope, color designer handles that.
will set the main color palette to be used by the finishing department to color completed animation. Prior to the use of digital coloring techniques, the
And before I truly understood, like was able to appreciate like what composition is, I would not have thought that the color designer was like an important role. But like straight up, the color designer I think is so fucking important because like the character design, art design for sure it's important. But if you don't have that like color to make them pop, to make them really look good, there's sometimes like, bro, bad color design, just bad composition, just overly saturated colors or dull or stuff like that. It really just collapses the entire design. No matter how good the design is, if the composition is it might just look mid.
color designer used specific RGB color code that were consistent between computers, ensures that the anime visual and narrative elements are cohesive and engaging. Now we come to the most exciting and challenging stage, the production stage.
Okay.
To make it easier to understand, let's break it into several groups. First up is the support groups, which includes production manager and assistant production manager. Their role is to ensure that everything is on schedule, within budget, and that production milestones are met.
This is probably like everyone's nightmare in working. Having people micromanage you, trying to figure out, all right, this is the schedule. You need to get this shit out right now. There's no time to waste.
Coordinate between each production department, track progress, and deliver production materials from one to another department. Next is the animators group. Within this group, we have the keyframe animators, who are some of the most talented artists in the studio. They create detailed version of the storyboard's image or layouts they've been assigned and are responsible for drawings the
Key
keyframes and
animators.
pivotal moments within the animation that define a scene's motion. Then in
This could be like the most important role. I don't know. But I feel like if there is going to be like a main character or like important characters, if we're going to consider this like as like in like an anime where there's mob characters and main characters and shit like that, keyframe animators probably is on top of the tier.
between animators who work closely with the
And then the in-between animators get abused. Keyframe animators are like the Giga Chads, and if they have enough time, then they can handle everything by themselves, right? But remember, with shitty scheduling, what happens? Studios like, you know, Mappa will like abuse these in-betweeners and basically just have them connect all the different dots that the keyframe animators immediately, you know, make, right? And if you have a lot of in-betweeners, that's usually like a sign that it's poorly scheduled, it's poorly managed. I think that example of like KyoAni or like other studios that are known to have good work-life balance and quality art, they don't really have in-betweeners as much, right? It's mostly, you know, the main dudes that does the entire thing. Because the in-betweeners, again, just exist to literally just like optimize and be efficient at the cost of just insane working hours and conditions.
keyframe animators to draw the remaining frames needed to complete a sequence of animation. They trace and clean up the lines of the keyframes, then draw the missing frames based on the timing sheet provided by the keyframe animator. But we're not done.
I would hate to be an in-betweener, man. Holy shit. And I know that like you can't just choose a role, right? You don't just choose to be the fucking key director or like, you know, the producer and stuff like that. You gotta work yourself way up. But I would imagine like the in-betweeners are the roles that not a lot of people would probably want to do because, you know, it's basically, that's the grunt work, right? That is like the frontline soldiers that get sacrificed.
Done yet. The third group is just as important. Quality control group. First up is the animation supervisor, who oversees, checks, and corrects the key animators' layouts and drawings. They are the first layer of quality control for an episode. The chief animation supervisor works directly under the supervising director of animation and acts as a second layer of quality control, correcting drawings before they are reviewed by the supervising director. One of the most important group in this production process is, of course, the computer graphics group, led by the CG director.
Computer graphic. All right, we got a CG branch. Tell me about that.
They oversee and manage all aspects of the CG team's work, ensuring visual consistency with the 2D animation.
Is this rotoscoping? Rotoscoping is the act of taking, you know, 3D per people movement and basically translating that into 2D, right? But this is CG though. I don't know. I just thought about rotoscoping when I saw this immediately.
Consistency with the 2D animation. CG artists create the 3D models and texture, while CG animators brings them to life and compile them into scenes using technology.
You know what? The CG part looks more fun. I think it's the bias of seeing these selective clips that make it look fun while everyone else is just fucking grinding at their office decks, just fucking drawing it away while the CG team is like, woo, look at our cool suits and, you know, we're playing around and doing flips and wow, it must be so fun here. I don't know. I wonder, like, what the... Like, you know what? I don't know if you guys can relate, but if you've been in like a corporate structure or like an office structure or even just in like high school, right? There's like a social hierarchy, right? You know that this group is like the group and the other groups are maybe a little bit, you know, not as cool and not as popular, not as, you know, coveted. In the animation industry, I wonder what the CG department is viewed as, you know? Like, are they elite? Are they seen as prudes? Are they seen as the lesser? Do people not treat this team as real animators because they're like, CG is not real? I don't know. I wonder if there's like politics and drama that happens between like the different branches and teams.
Using technology. Another crucial group is the finishing group, which includes the background artists who create the scene backgrounds based on the key animator's layout. The art director supervises and produces background art, ensuring consistency across all scenes, while the color selectors add colors to each scene based on the main palette established by the color designer. You still remember that, right?
Yep.
I hope so.
Yep,
I do.
I
Finally, the supervising director of animation checks and approves all animation, ensuring it adheres to the storyboards and character design. After their approval, we move on to the post-production stage. In the post-production stage, the audio director and soundtrack composer collaborate to create a captivating...
Oh, this is my favorite part! This is my favorite part! The soundtrack composers and voice acting, right? So, okay. Pre-production is like, you know, you're organizing the team. Who are the members of the Avengers that we will gather? You know, what is the, you know, the team that we have to work with, and exactly what are we going to adapt per episode? And then kind of storyboard that, create a rough framework. Then the production stage is literally what we just talked about, just adding all the meat onto it. The pre-production is like the skeleton. The production stage is like adding the meat, right? You're actually like putting the flesh and the meat onto that skeleton thing, which is a weird analogy that I'm putting on. And then post-production right now is put the clothes on. What a weird example. I don't know why I'm bringing this one up, but I feel like I've heard this analogy before in a different topic back in when I was a kid. Of like, you got a skeleton, you put the fucking flesh on, and now you put the clothes on. This is the drip stage. This is the voice acting. This is the soundtracks.
Musical score and background music that perfectly fits the series. Meanwhile, the sound effect engineer is responsible for producing all the sound effects.
Yo, sound effects? This looks really fun. Like, everyone else is just slaving away, fucking drawing at ridiculous fucking, you know, paces and schedules, just dying at their fucking cubicles. And then you got the sound effects team. How are we going to convey this one? Oh, I know! We're going to just chop vegetables across a mic, and it's gonna create the authentic sound that we want. Now, this seems like a fun team.
It's necessary for the anime, using a variety of techniques.
Look at that shit, bro! While we recorded, frozen celery and bell pepper. Like, they just look at it. Doesn't this look fun?
Techniques such as manipulating real-world sounds or using digital.
What the hell? They're just hitting the fucking blanket with the pillow because, you know, they want to have that, you know, the sound of clothing and shit.
Or using digital sounds libraries. The voice actors then bringing the characters to life by voicing over their lines.
This is probably one of the most coveted teams, right? Like, this is, like, again, the voice actors, man, the seiyus, they get paid ridiculous. Now, not everyone does. In fact, if you look at like the charts of like who makes the most money in the voice acting range, like only a very few dominates. Like in most industries, like if you were like Takashi Rie, you gonna make them millions. If you're nobody just like entering the industry, you making pennies. And if you have like S-tier list of voice actors in the studio, you know, doing all this shit, I'd imagine this is like one of the most elite and prestigious moments.
matching their voice with the character lip movements and performing their lines with the appropriate emotion, tone, and delivery. The sound mixer records their voice acting data in the voice acting recording room, including voice editing, merging voice acting recordings, sound effects, and merging soundtracks according to the animation director and audio director's wishes. The sound production supervisors schedules and arrange recording sessions for each of their assigned project depending on how many recording rooms they have available in their studio. In this post-production stage, the SFX artists produce a distinct visual appearance within the animations such as wind, clouds, lightning, explosions, and others. Near the end of the production, the director of photography hands down to composite animation, in addition to key animators' layouts, which often depict scenes framing. Director of photography provides guidance to the individual photographers concerning light direction, focusing, camera work to create the atmosphere of the shot as the.
So is this the part that's called composition? In the post-production, so before we had that color designer in the beginning, but maybe I was wrong, that the composition is actually happening at the post-production stage.
Picked by the episode storyboards. For the final touch, the video editors assembles all of the footage from the various stage of production, including the keyframe animation, in-between animation, and computer graphics animation into a cohesive and visually pleasing final product. They then conduct final checkups with the director and episode editors, make necessary edits, and apply censorship according to each step.
Apply censorship, basically. Whenever there's titties and ass showing up, you gotta like put like, if it's like a bath scene, you gotta have like a little bit of smoke, a little bit of like, you know, the what's it called, the steam covering it. Whenever you're outside, maybe the hair strand will just briefly cover it.
Television station codes if needed. The video editor also works with the sound team to ensure that the sound effects and musics are properly synchronized with the animation, ensuring that the animation is polished and ready for distribution to audience or for those who watch the series.
And thank you. Okay. Yeah, I will appreciate them. Okay. Is there more? Okay, this is the credits scene. And I want you to make note of this. This video, how long is it? Whoops, sorry. How long is the video? What's this? 8 minutes. Why is it 8 minutes? You know why it's 8 minutes. I told you on the other video too, right? I showed you exactly about the mid-roll ads, right? I mean, the last section though is credits, right? But it's just how it's just so conveniently just optimized to hit that fucking 8-minute mark with the credits. But still, hey, fantastic video. This honestly gave me a little bit more like, I guess like, I've always been interested in like the production side of stuff, and you know, I'm trying to really understand like not just like the plot and the stories of animes and theory crafting, but to really assess what am I actually looking at visually, right? But then beyond that too is like, how is that made? And to see all this stuff is pretty cool. And essentially, you know, like the whole example that I gave with like a skeleton structure, the pre-production, right? The pre-production where it's just like the skeleton, you're setting the frameworks, gather the team and try to figure out, you know, the storyboards and what you're going to adapt. The production stage, which is basically putting the fucking flesh, the meat onto it, right? Animate that shit, sorry. You use the keyframes and use the in-betweeners and connect everything from the dot. And the post-production is like, you know, the final part where you're adding the soundtracks, you're adding the voice acting, you're, you know, making sure that the colors, the composition's all correct and everything moves slowly. To me, I feel like post-production is the funnest part. I would hate to be an in-betweener here in the production stage. I feel like they are the ones that suffer the most. But the post-production stage seems to be like the most entertaining and fun part to me. And that's pretty much it. Please go check out Ultimate Beings channel. It's a pretty informative video. Give him a like if you want. Here's a link to the video. See you next time.